A security guard stopped Elon Musk from entering his own event, and within weeks, he was fighting to save his daughter from a high-stakes corporate betrayal. What began as a routine ID check spiraled into a deadly game of espionage, loyalty, and survival. But what Musk revealed next, no one could have seen it coming. Before we continue this incredible story, let us know where you're watching from. If you enjoy stories like this, subscribe to the channel, because tomorrow we have another inspiring story you won't want to miss. Dexter Callaway rolled his shoulders as the sun dipped behind the skyline, casting a golden glow over the towering glass structure of the Global Innovation Summit venue. Standing tall at the east entrance, clad in a perfectly pressed black uniform with a badge gleaming on his chest, he checked his watch. 6:45 p.m., 15 minutes to go before the official start. The crowd was already building, tech executives, entrepreneurs, media crews, investors, and young hopefuls buzzing with anticipation. The energy was electric, but Dexter's focus remained razor-sharp. His mission was clear: no one gets inside without proper credentials. No exceptions. That directive had come straight from Mr. Vaughn, his supervisor. Not even the president, he'd barked during briefing, and Dexter had nodded, as always, with quiet conviction. This wasn't just another job for Dexter. It was the biggest security event of his 15-year career, and he was determined to treat it like a battlefield. Structured, vigilant, precise. Nothing escaped his notice. He'd already stopped a slick-talking influencer trying to bluff his way in, caught a group of students with fake wristbands, and redirected an overzealous journalist attempting to sneak through a loading dock. Each time, he stayed calm, polite, firm. The protocol was sacred. Just then, a sleek black sedan pulled up silently to the curb. Unlike the flashy limousines arriving earlier, this car was understated but expensive. The driver's door opened and out stepped a tall, lean man dressed in simple jeans and a black t-shirt. No badge, no lanyard, no entourage. He moved with the quiet confidence of someone who was used to the world bending around him. But to Dexter, he was just another guest, until proven otherwise. Dexter stepped forward, his broad shoulders filling the entryway. "Excuse me, sir," he said evenly, blocking the path. "I'll need to see your event credentials before you enter." The man paused, lifted his gaze, and raised an eyebrow. In the dimming light, Dexter didn't immediately recognize him. He had a composed face, dark hair, and the distant look of someone juggling a dozen thoughts at once. "I'm Elon Musk," the man replied, almost casually. "This is my event." Dexter didn't flinch. He'd heard every trick in the book. Last month, someone claimed to be a retired astronaut just to get into a cybersecurity expo. "I understand, sir," he said, "but I'll still need to see your badge." A flash of irritation crossed the man's face. He gestured toward the towering digital banner overhead, which flashed the words, "Welcome to the future," alongside his own face. "Look, I'm running late. Just Google me. I'm the keynote speaker." By now, a few in line had taken notice. A young woman whispered to her friend and pointed. A smartphone came out. Then another. The tension in the air thickened. "Rules are rules, sir," Dexter said, calm as ever. "Everyone gets checked. It's for everyone's safety." "Is there a problem?" a breathless event coordinator asked as she rushed over. One glance at the man's face and her expression turned to horror. "Mr. Musk, I am so sorry. Please come right in." But Dexter didn't budge. "Ma'am," he said respectfully but firmly, "I was instructed that no one gets in without a badge." Her face flushed. "Do you know who this is?" "I understand who he claims to be," Dexter said quietly. "But protocol is protocol." The murmurs around them had grown into a hum of disbelief. "That security guard just stopped Elon Musk," someone whispered. Phones were aimed, videos were recording. Dexter's earpiece crackled. "Callaway," came Mr. Vaughn's tight voice. "What's happening at the east entrance? You didn't let Elon Musk through, did you?" Dexter's voice was steady. "Sir, I'm just following the instructions you gave. No ID, no entry. Even for Elon Musk." There was a pause, then a deep sigh. "Stand by." The man in the black t-shirt, Elon Musk, was no longer annoyed. In fact, his eyes twinkled with something like amusement. "You're absolutely right," he said at last, his South African accent suddenly more pronounced. "Rules matter." Just then, an assistant ran up, panting and flustered. "Mr. Musk, I've got your badge right here." Elon took it, clipped it on, and gave Dexter a nod of approval. "Now, I'm official." As he walked past, he paused. "What's your name?" "Dexter Callaway, sir." Elon smiled. "You're the first security guard who's ever made me earn my way in. I like that. I'd like to talk to you again. Soon." Dexter remained at his post, heart pounding. The crowd behind him buzzed. His phone vibrated non-stop in his pocket. He didn't know it yet, but this one moment, rooted in integrity, was about to change everything. The next morning, the world felt different, but Dexter Callaway didn't know it yet. At 5:30 a.m., his alarm clock buzzed just as it always had, breaking the silence in the small, two-bedroom apartment he shared with his 10-year-old daughter, Zoe. He silenced it quickly, careful not to wake her. The muscles in his legs and lower back ached from standing on his feet for 12 hours the night before, but there was no room for rest. Responsibility never waited. Dexter moved through the kitchen like a machine, quiet, precise, habitual. The refrigerator groaned as he opened it. Eggs, toast, orange juice. A humble breakfast, but one made with love and routine. The scent of coffee drifted into the air as he set the table for two, placing a paper napkin beside Zoe's favorite pink cup. "Zoe," he called softly, knocking gently on her bedroom door. "Rise and shine, kiddo. Breakfast's ready." Moments later, Zoe shuffled into the kitchen, eyes puffy with sleep, her wild brown curls tangled from a night of dreaming. She yawned, then looked up with curiosity as her eyes landed on his buzzing cell phone. "Dad, your phone's going crazy." Dexter frowned. The screen glowed with dozens of missed calls, hundreds of notifications. "Probably just work stuff," he muttered, trying to brush it off. But his daughter's eyes lit up with suspicion and a touch of glee. "Grandma said you're famous now," she chirped, grabbing a slice of toast. "She saw you on the internet. You stopped some rich guy from getting into his own event?" Dexter nearly choked on his coffee. "She already saw that?" he asked, setting the mug down slowly. Zoe giggled. "Can I watch it?" "No," he said a little too quickly. "Eat your eggs before they get cold." As he drove Zoe to school, he tried to shake off the creeping unease. Traffic buzzed around him, but inside the car his thoughts were louder. The image of Elon Musk smiling and saying, "You're the first to stop me," echoed in his mind. Was he going to get fired, praised, mocked? He glanced at Zoe in the rearview mirror. She was humming, swinging her legs in rhythm. She had no idea the fragile future he was trying to protect might be hanging by a thread. After drop-off, Dexter headed to Clara Callaway's small home on the edge of the city. His mother was already sitting at the kitchen table, iPad in hand, eyes glued to the viral video that had now been watched over 3 million times. She didn't look surprised when he walked in. In fact, she beamed. "There's my boy," she said, hitting play again. "Standing tall and doing the right thing, just like your father would have." "Mom, please," Dexter groaned, rubbing his temples. "I didn't do anything special. I followed the rules. I didn't even recognize him at first." "And that's what makes it special," she replied, placing a warm hand on his. "You treated him like everyone else." The warmth of her words didn't settle his nerves. Instead, the guilt started to creep in. "What if I lose my job over this, Mom? What if they say I embarrassed the company?" She looked at him with that quiet steel only a mother could muster. "Dexter, you've spent your whole life doing right by people. Don't start doubting yourself now. That Musk fella? He looked impressed, not mad. And the world loves you right now. You're trending, whether you like it or not." Before he could reply, his phone buzzed again. This time, it wasn't a text. It was a call. He stared at the name on the screen. Mr. Vaughn. Dexter swallowed hard and picked up. "This is The CEO wants to speak with you. Today, noon, at headquarters." A long pause followed. "Am I in trouble?" "We'll discuss that when you get here," Vaughn said and hung up. Dexter's stomach twisted as he lowered the phone. Clara gave him a searching look. "What is it?" "They want to see me, the CEO." Clara didn't flinch. "So go, and hold your head high. Whatever happens, you did the right thing." Back at home, Dexter changed into his best suit, the one he had worn to Marilyn's funeral. It still smelled faintly of cedar and old hope. He opened the closet, pulled down a battered shoebox, and peeked inside. It held the pieces of a dream. A rough business plan for Callaway Security Solutions, a few brochures, and exactly $12,437 in cash savings. It was his secret, his goal, but never quite within reach. Not yet. Now, walking toward a meeting that could make or break his future, Dexter had no idea this day wouldn't end with a termination, but with an opportunity so unexpected, so life-altering, that it would change everything. He just didn't know it yet. The security company's headquarters loomed ahead, a sleek glass and steel building nestled between two towering offices in downtown. As Dexter stepped out of his car, he smoothed his tie and adjusted the cuffs of his jacket. It felt strange wearing this suit again, too stiff, too formal. But today, the direction of his entire life could shift with a single conversation. As he entered the lobby, he felt eyes on him. A young receptionist at the front desk did a double take. A nearby guard nudged a colleague. Whispers trailed behind him like smoke. He could hear it without hearing it. "That's him, the guy who stopped Elon Musk." Tyler, one of the younger guards he had trained years ago, stepped into the hallway with a grin. "Dex, man, you're a legend now. That video? 5 million views and climbing." Dexter forced a smile. "Still just doing my job, Tyler." "You're trending on 3 platforms," Tyler said, walking with him toward the elevators. "Some say you embarrassed Musk. Others say you've got the kind of backbone we need more of. Either way, everyone's watching." Dexter's heart pounded as the elevator doors slid shut. Watching, yes, but would they still be cheering when the spotlight moved to consequences? On the 18th floor, the air was cooler, crisper, the kind of floor where glass walls separated power from the rest of the building. Mr. Vaughn stood near a large conference room, waiting. His usual stoic expression had an edge of tension. "Callaway, right this way." Inside, the room was silent save for the soft hum of the city through the windows. At the head of the polished table sat Mrs. Evelyn Winters, CEO of the security firm. Her presence radiated authority. Sharp eyes, tailored suit, and an expression that revealed absolutely nothing. "Mr. Callaway," she began without preamble, "your actions last night have put this company in an unusual position." Dexter took a slow breath. "Yes, ma'am. I was following the exact security protocols we were given." She raised a hand gently, stopping him. "Let me finish." Vaughn looked uneasy, hands clasped in front of him. "Some of our clients expressed concern about how Mr. Musk was treated. However," she continued, sliding a business card across the table, "his team reached out this morning." Dexter's eyes dropped to the card. A name scribbled on the back caught his attention. Prisha Patel, Chief of Staff, Office of Elon Musk. "Mr. Musk was impressed by your professionalism," she added. "He specifically requested to speak with you." "Directly." Dexter blinked. "He... what?" "Wants a private meeting," Vaughn clarified. "Soon. This isn't a reprimand, Callaway. In fact, it might be the start of something big." A strange silence filled the room, the kind where potential and uncertainty collide in the air. As Dexter left the building, clutching the card in his hand like it was made of gold, he could hardly process what had just happened. The man he had stopped at the gate, one of the most powerful figures in the world, wanted to meet him. Not to scold, not to fire, but to talk. By the time he got home, the sun had dipped low in the sky, casting golden light through the blinds of their apartment. Zoe was at the table, scribbling on her math homework. She looked up with those wide eyes, the ones that always seemed to see deeper than he expected. "Did you get fired?" she asked. Dexter chuckled despite the weight in his chest. "No, sweetheart, I think. I got the opposite." He explained what had happened over dinner, carefully, gently, leaving out the parts that might overwhelm her. But Zoe was sharp. "Is he going to give you a job?" "I don't know," Dexter said truthfully. "But I'm going to meet with him tomorrow." She chewed her spaghetti thoughtfully. "Grandma says people who follow the rules make the best leaders. Is that true?" Dexter leaned back in his chair, studying her. "I think people who follow their principles, even when it's hard, make the kind of leaders the world needs." That night, after tucking Zoe into bed, Dexter sat at the kitchen table with the business card in one hand and his old security business plan in the other. It all felt surreal. He typed out a short message to the email on the back of the card. "This is Dexter Callaway following up as requested. I'm available to speak at your convenience." He hovered over the send button for a moment, then clicked. He didn't expect anything back until morning. But exactly 20 minutes later, his phone rang. A soft, calm voice spoke on the other end. "Mr. Callaway, this is Prisha Patel. Mr. Musk would like to meet with you. Tomorrow, 1 p.m. Is that possible?" Dexter swallowed. Yes, that's possible." "Excellent," she said. "We've already spoken to your supervisor. You've been cleared." Before he could respond, she hung up. Dexter stared at his phone. They had arranged everything before even speaking to him. He looked toward Zoe's room. The pressure in his chest tightened. Whatever happened tomorrow, it would change everything. The next morning, Dexter woke before his alarm. His nerves buzzed like a live wire, every muscle in his body alert and humming with anticipation. As early sunlight filtered through the blinds, he quietly moved around the apartment, careful not to wake Zoe. He brewed a strong pot of coffee, barely tasting it as he drank. The suit he chose, a navy blue jacket with a subtle pinstripe, hadn't seen daylight since Marilyn's funeral. He adjusted his tie twice, then stared at himself in the mirror. "Just be honest," he whispered. "Be you." By 12:30 p.m., Dexter was pulling into the underground garage of the downtown high-rise where the meeting was scheduled. He followed the directions Prisha had emailed him, a private elevator to the 22nd floor, then a left into a minimalist reception area where glass walls offered sweeping views of the city. "Mr. Callaway," a voice greeted him. A woman in her early 30s, sharp-eyed and confident, stepped forward. "I'm Prisha Patel. Thank you for coming. Mr. Musk is running slightly behind schedule, but please wait in the conference room." She led him into a space that looked more like a museum exhibit than a meeting area. No clutter, no wasted design. Just a sleek conference table, ergonomic chairs, and a wall-sized screen that silently displayed rotating schematics and models of what looked like spacecraft and clean energy tech. Dexter sat at the far end, hands resting on the polished wood. He kept his phone on silent, though it vibrated with new messages every few minutes. His mother had sent 3 more texts. Zoe had sent 1. "Good luck, Dad. You've got this." He smiled faintly at the words, then inhaled deeply and exhaled slowly. At 1:07 p.m., the door opened. Elon Musk walked in. Alone, no entourage, no fanfare. He wore a simple black t-shirt, dark jeans, and a look of casual focus that seemed to mask something deeper. "Dexter Callaway," he said, extending a hand. "Good to see you again. Hope I didn't keep you waiting too long." Dexter stood, accepting the handshake. "No, sir. It's an honor." "No need for sir," Elon said with a faint smile as they sat across from each other. Just Elon. The silence that followed wasn't awkward. It was loaded. Like both men were taking the measure of the other in real time. Then Elon leaned forward, fingers steepled. "Do you know how rare it is for someone to stop me?" he asked. Dexter blinked. "I imagine it doesn't happen often." "Twice," Elon said. "Both times it was you." Dexter's brow furrowed. "Twice?" "6 years ago. Chicago Tech Expo, I tried accessing a restricted generator room. Out of curiosity, not malice. And you were working freelance security. You stopped me cold. Politely, but firmly. Dexter searched his memory. I do remember someone. I didn't realize it was you. Exactly. That's what impressed me then, and what impressed me again last week. You didn't bend, didn't waver. You followed protocol. You stood by your principles. Dexter sat straighter. It was just my job. No, Elon replied, eyes sharp now. It was more than that. It was integrity, and that's something I need more of in my organization. He pulled a tablet from the sleek folder in front of him and slid it across the table. I want to offer you something unusual, he said. I'm developing a new facility in Austin. It's going to be at the heart of our next generation of innovation. AI, robotics, energy tech. But we can't afford a single breach. Security isn't just about locked doors and surveillance anymore. It's about trust, judgment, people. Dexter looked down at the screen. A job offer, a real one. Full relocation package, executive-level benefits, salary 4 times what he currently made. It felt surreal. His throat went dry. You want me to run security? I want you to lead it. Build it from scratch. Choose your team. Create a culture where integrity is non-negotiable. Dexter's voice was almost a whisper. Why me? Elon's response was quiet but firm. Because you stopped me when no one else would. That tells me everything I need to know. Dexter sat in stunned silence. The weight of the offer pressed on him like gravity. The money, the opportunity, it could change everything for Zoe, for his mother, for himself. But it also meant moving across the country, uprooting the life he had worked so hard to stabilize. I need to think about it, he said finally. Elon nodded. Good. I'd be concerned if you didn't. Talk it over with your family, but know this, whether you take the offer or not, you've earned my respect. He stood, reaching into his pocket and handing Dexter a small, matte-black business card with a private number on the back. When you're ready, call me directly, no middlemen. As Dexter walked back to the elevator, heart pounding, the city below shimmered in the afternoon sun. The entire world had just shifted under his feet. Back at home that evening, Zoe sat at the kitchen table, eyes wide with anticipation. Well, she asked, did he give you a job? Dexter smiled, equal parts awe and uncertainty flooding his chest. He did. Zoe squealed. Are we moving to Texas? We're going to talk about it, he said, ruffling her hair. It's a big decision. As she returned to her math homework, Dexter stared out the window. The sun was setting behind the buildings. One chapter was ending. Another, vast, unknown, filled with possibility, was waiting. For the next 3 days, Dexter Callaway existed in a fog of possibility. He returned to work as if nothing had changed, but in truth, everything had. Every badge he checked, every patrol he walked, was haunted by the weight of Elon Musk's offer. The job, the money, the responsibility, the move. It all swirled in his mind like a hurricane with no eye. His co-workers noticed his distraction, but none asked. They just assumed it was fallout from the viral video still circulating online. Clips of Dexter stopping Elon at the Innovation Summit were now on national morning shows, parodied in memes and dissected in think pieces about ordinary heroes. But Dexter didn't care about any of that. His focus was on one thing: Zoe. After picking her up from school on Thursday afternoon, they stopped at a park near their apartment. It was her favorite spot. Tall trees, a rusty swing set, and a little climbing dome where she always pretended to be an astronaut. She climbed to the top and waved down at him, laughing. "Dad, you be mission control." He forced a smile and played along. "Copy that, Commander Zoe." "Do you see Mars yet?" "Almost," she shouted. "I just have to swing past the moon." Dexter watched her with a pang in his chest. How could he ask her to leave this behind? They sat on a bench afterward, sipping juice boxes and sharing a bag of pretzels. "Zoe," he said gently, what if we had to move to another state? Like Texas." Her eyes widened. "Texas? That's really far." "It is. But it might mean a better school, a nicer apartment, maybe even a pool, and I'd have a new job. Would I have to leave my friends? Yeah, he said honestly. You'd have to start fresh. She was quiet for a long time, crunching a pretzel slowly. Is Grandma coming too? I don't know yet, Dexter admitted. She said she'd visit a lot. Zoe looked up at the clouds. Well, I'd miss everyone here, but I'd go, if you think it's the right thing. Dexter swallowed the lump rising in his throat. That means a lot, sweetheart. That night, after putting Zoe to bed, Dexter called his mother. She said she'd go if I thought it was right, he told Clara, but I'm still not sure. Clara was quiet for a moment. Then, Dex, do you remember when your father got transferred to Missouri? I was 10, he said. I cried for a week. And 2 months later, you didn't want to come back, she reminded him. Children are scared of change. We all are. But sometimes change is the only way forward. He sighed. But what if I fail? What if I take this job, uproot her whole world, and I mess it all up? Clara's voice turned firm. You are the most principled man I know. That's why Elon Musk noticed you, because you did the right thing when no one else would. That's not something that disappears when you move. It's who you are. Dexter rubbed his temples. It just feels so big. Then take it one piece at a time, she said softly. Talk to Elon. Ask the hard questions. And whatever you decide, I'll be proud of you. The next morning, Dexter called the number on Elon's card. The line picked up on the second ring. This is Elon. Mr. Musk, this is Dexter Callaway. I've thought it over, and I'd like to talk more. Ask some questions before I accept. Good, Elon said, his tone warm. I was hoping you'd say that. Come in tomorrow, 10 a.m. Bring any questions you have. The line clicked off and Dexter stared at his phone. The first step had been taken. At work, the buzz was louder than ever. His colleagues were whispering more openly now. Is he really leaving? Elon offered him a job, right? He's moving to Texas. Watch. That evening, after dinner, Dexter pulled out the old shoebox from his closet. Inside were years of scribbled dreams. His own business plan, security manuals, saved up dollars tucked into envelopes marked Zoe's future. He spread the papers across the table. Then, one by one, he began crossing things off, not because they weren't important, but because the dream had grown larger than the box that held it. The next morning, Dexter wore the same suit, but this time, his shoulders sat higher, his step more sure. When Zoe kissed him goodbye at the door, she whispered, "Knock 'em dead, Dad." He smiled. "I'll try." Because now it wasn't just about the job. It was about who he was becoming. Dexter Callaway arrived at the sleek Texas facility just before dawn. The sky was still a deep indigo, the stars fading as light crept over the horizon. As he stepped out of the black company car, his breath caught in his throat. The campus stretched like something out of science fiction. Multiple high-tech buildings, drone pads, biometric gates, and solar arrays gleaming under soft morning light. This wasn't just a workplace. It was a world unto itself, and it was now his responsibility to protect it. Prisha Patel, Elon Musk's sharp-eyed chief of staff, greeted him at the entrance. "You're early," she noted with a small smile. "Good. You're going to need every second of the day." Dexter followed her through glass corridors, past labs humming with innovation. Engineers in white coats glanced up, curious. Word had traveled fast. The new head of security had arrived. The man who stopped Elon Musk at his own event. "I scheduled you a full day," Prisha said briskly. "Team orientation, department briefings, and a walkthrough of our existing protocols, and Elon would like a debrief at 5 p.m. Dexter nodded, heart pounding. "Let's get started." First came the team. 26 elite security professionals, ex-military, cybersecurity experts, intelligence analysts. They were seated around a long glass table in the central briefing room. Every eye was on Dexter as he entered. some curious, others skeptical, a few visibly unimpressed. Prisha introduced him with the usual facts: years of field experience, reputation for integrity, viral incident with Elon Musk. As she finished, she turned to Dexter. "They're all yours." He took a breath. "I know I'm not what you expected," he began. "My resume doesn't have the bells and whistles, but I've been in the trenches for 15 years, and I've learned something important. Security doesn't just come from equipment or titles. It comes from culture, from principles, from never cutting corners, even when it's hard." A woman near the front, tall, sharp-eyed, with a nameplate reading Jacobs, crossed her arms. "So, your credentials are, what? You stopped a billionaire once?" A few chuckles rippled through the room. Dexter held her gaze. "My credentials are that I follow the rules, even when it's inconvenient, even when it might cost me my job. That's the kind of culture I plan to build here." Silence. Then Jacobs gave a single nod. "We'll see." The rest of the day blurred into a whirlwind. Facility tours, tech briefings, risk assessments. The sheer scale of the operation was staggering. Advanced robotics, AI development, prototype testing for vehicles not even rumored in the press. Dexter's security instincts buzzed constantly. So many access points, so many vulnerabilities. At 4:30, as he was reviewing outdated clearance levels for the drone bay, Prisha's voice came through his earpiece. "Mr. Musk is ready for your debrief." Dexter's stomach twisted. Elon's office was minimalist, almost austere. Just a desk, a few monitors, and a window overlooking the sprawling campus. "You survived your first day," Elon said, motioning for him to sit. "Barely," Dexter admitted. Elon studied him for a long moment. "You're seeing the holes already, aren't you?" "Yes. Communication between security divisions is patchy, badge protocols are inconsistent, and the labs, some of them still use legacy systems that are shockingly easy to bypass." "Good," Elon said. "That's why you're here. I want a complete overhaul of this facility's security culture. You won't get resistance from me, but you might from others." Dexter hesitated. "Some of the team isn't thrilled I'm here." "They'll come around," Elon said calmly. "But in the meantime, I want you focused on a bigger project." He turned his monitor toward Dexter, revealing architectural blueprints. "This is the new AI research facility. We break ground in 60 days. I want you to design the security from scratch." Dexter blinked. "All of it?" "All of it. Internal, external, cyber, personnel protocols, everything." "I'd need a team," Dexter said. "Jacobs, Marcus, and a few others." "Take whoever you need," Elon said. "Budget's not an issue. Time is." Dexter left the meeting stunned, a tablet full of blueprints clutched in his hands. Outside, as dusk settled over the desert horizon, he stood on the balcony of his company-provided apartment, watching lights flicker on across the campus. In the next room, Zoe was sketching a robot for her science project, chatting with her new friend Maya over video call. He wasn't just running security anymore. He was helping secure the future. And it all began with one moment of integrity, now amplified into a test far greater than he'd ever imagined. The following week brought relentless pressure, and Dexter Callaway felt the full weight of it bearing down. With Elon's trust on the line and the massive AI facility project now under his watch, he had no room for error. But just as he was gaining ground, streamlining protocols, unifying security systems, and building trust among his team, an unexpected message landed in his inbox like a ticking time bomb. URGE, confidential decision leak. Dexter's pulse kicked up instantly. The leaked files pertained to next-gen solar panel tech that hadn't even been presented internally yet. The designs were worth millions, and now they were in the hands of a competitor. 30 minutes later, he sat in the executive boardroom across from 8 stony-faced department heads. Elon was there too, silent but unreadable. "I trusted you to prevent exactly this," Elon said, voice controlled but ice cold. "What happened?" Dexter stood, eyes scanning the room. We're investigating the breach. My preliminary assessment points to an internal leak. There's no sign of external infiltration, no forced entries, no bypassed firewalls. The credentials used were legitimate. That sounds like an excuse, snapped the CFO. It's not, Dexter replied evenly. It's context. Several department heads resisted the enhanced protocols. Some found them disruptive. A few glances darted across the table. Elon's jaw tightened. Fix this. You have 48 hours, or we'll reconsider your position. The words hit like a freight train. Back in the security hub, Dexter summoned his core team. Regina Jacobs, Marcus Wu, and Talia Perez. Everything else goes on hold, he told them. We find out who did this, and we find out now. They combed through access logs, CCTV footage, internal communications. Hours blurred into one another. The coffee ran bitter and cold, and still, nothing. Whoever had done it was meticulous. No anomalies, no flagrant red flags. Everything done under the guise of legitimacy. At midnight, Marcus leaned back from his console. This wasn't a slip-up. This was calculated. Someone knew exactly how to move without being seen. Then we need to think like them, Dexter said. It's time we bait the hook. He proposed a classic counterintelligence tactic, the canary trap. Each department would receive a slightly altered version of a new set of design blueprints. The differences would be minute, a changed component ID, a mirrored layout, but unique. If the designs leaked again, they'd know exactly which version, and therefore which department, it came from. Subtle enough the mole won't notice, Regina nodded in approval. It's smart. They'd deployed the bait files late the next night. Now, all they could do was wait. Meanwhile, Dexter's personal life carried on with quiet normalcy, or at least the appearance of it. Zoe was thriving in school. Her science fair project, a self-painted water filtration system, was coming together beautifully. Her best friend, Maya, had become a fixture in their lives. The two girls had grown inseparable. Can I sleep over at Maya's this weekend? Zoe asked over breakfast one morning, eyes shining. Her dad said it's okay. Dexter smiled, but hesitated. Sure, honey, we'll see. He trusted Maya. He liked Mr. Chen. Quiet, methodical, brilliant. Still, his security instincts, now sharper than ever, couldn't help but wonder. How well did he really know him? 3 days later, the bait worked. At 2:17 a.m., one of the canary files was accessed and copied to an unauthorized external drive. The file came from the operations department's unique version, specifically the one assigned to Vernon Reeves. Dexter stared at the screen. Cold shock ran through his veins. Vernon Reeves, Senior VP, one of Elon's oldest associates. He's the last person I'd suspect, Marcus murmured, equally stunned. Why would someone that high up risk it all? Power, pride, resentment, Dexter said quietly. He brought the evidence to Roland Perry, the facility's director of security. Roland reviewed the access logs in silence, then looked up with a frown. These are serious accusations. You'd better be absolutely sure. I am. But days passed. No action. No follow-up. Something was wrong. Dexter began to suspect that someone, maybe Roland himself, was protecting Vernon. The trail was getting hot, and yet everyone around him was suddenly turning cold. So Dexter made a decision. If no one else would act, he'd take the evidence straight to Elon himself. What he didn't know, what he couldn't have possibly foreseen, was that this trail didn't just lead to a betrayal at work. It was about to end somewhere far more personal and far more dangerous. The moment Dexter Callaway stepped out of his car in front of Maya Chen's house, his gut twisted like a coiled spring. He hadn't expected Vernon Reeves to answer the door. The smile on Vernon's face was smooth, too smooth. Mr. Callaway, he said with unblinking politeness, Maya's father had to step out unexpectedly. I'm watching the girls. Dexter's instincts went into overdrive. Behind that calm voice and practiced grin, something was deeply wrong. Actually, Dexter said, forcing a casual tone, Zoe and I need to get going. Family emergency." But Vernon didn't move from the doorway. "They're just downstairs in the workshop. Come in, let them say goodbye properly." His voice was light, but his eyes were razor blades. Trapped. Dexter stepped inside slowly, alert to every sound, every movement. Maya and Zoe's laughter floated up from the basement, innocent and unaware. That sound was his anchor and his nightmare. If Reeves had orchestrated this, then his daughter was already in the lion's den. Just as Vernon turned toward the stairs, Dexter suddenly reached for his phone and texted Regina. "Reeves at Chen's house. Something's wrong. Send help." But before he could hit send, Vernon's hand clamped around his wrist, gripping it like a vice. The phone dropped, screen flashing with the unsent message. "Oops," Vernon said softly, retrieving the device. "New phone?" Dexter's jaw clenched. "What do you want?" Vernon's smile never wavered. "To leave, quietly, and I need the girls to ensure that happens without interference." The chill that ran through Dexter had nothing to do with the air conditioning. This wasn't just about corporate espionage anymore. Reeves had crossed a line few ever dared and put children in danger to cover his trail. "You're not walking out of here with my daughter," Dexter said, voice low and cold. "Oh, but I am," Vernon replied, pulling a small device from his pocket. "This contains everything. 5 years of data, designs, blueprints, AI research. I walk out that door and the company never recovers. But if you make a fuss, well, accidents happen. Even to little girls?" The rage that flared in Dexter's chest threatened to consume him, but he knew he had to keep calm. He needed time, seconds, just seconds, for backup to arrive. "Maya," Vernon called upstairs, pretending to be cheerful. "Someone's at the door for your dad." Moments later, Maya's voice floated down. "Okay, just a sec." Dexter seized his opportunity. "You want leverage, Vernon?" he said, stepping closer, chest to chest. "Let's make a deal. You leave the girls, I go with you. Insurance for your escape." Vernon paused, considered. "Tempting, but you're not valuable enough." "Then take me and let the girls go," Dexter pushed, voice hardening. "They're children, Vernon. You cross this line, there's no coming back." Just then, a faint knock at the front door. Vernon froze. Dexter didn't. He lunged. They crashed into the living room coffee table with a sickening thud. Vernon fought like a man with nothing left to lose. Frenzied, cornered, dangerous. But Dexter fought like a father. "Joe, run," he shouted toward the stairs. "Get out now." Footsteps thundered upstairs as the girls screamed and fled toward the front yard. Vernon roared and shoved Dexter against the wall, but Dexter locked onto his arm, twisting the device free and flinging it across the room. It clattered under a bookshelf. Then, a final crash. The front door burst open. Regina led the charge, sidearm raised. Behind her, police officers filled the room like a tidal wave. "Stop it, Vernon," she barked. Cornered, breathing hard, Reeves raised his hands. "It's over," he muttered. Dexter collapsed to his knees, lungs heaving. His eyes darted toward the front yard, and there, safe, whole, was Zoe, wrapped in a blanket by a patrol car. Maya by her side. He stood shakily and walked to her. She ran into his arms with the force of 1,000 storms. "I was so scared, Dad," she sobbed. "I know," Dexter whispered, voice raw. "But you're safe now. I've got you." Later, in a quiet hospital room where Dexter was treated for a cracked rib and bruises, Elon Musk walked in. "I just heard," he said softly. "What you did?" Dexter shook his head. "Just doing my job." "No," Elon said firmly. "You went way beyond that. You protected the mission, yes, but more importantly, you protected your daughter. That's the kind of leadership this world desperately needs." Dexter didn't have words, just a silent nod. Outside, dawn was breaking, and for the first time in his life, Dexter Callaway felt like a man who had nothing left to prove, only a future to build. In a world that often rewards shortcuts, favors charisma over character, and values convenience more than conviction, Dexter Callaway's story stands as a rare and powerful reminder. Integrity is not a weakness, it's a superpower. From a humble security guard enforcing simple rules to the head of security for one of the world's most advanced technology companies, Dexter's rise wasn't built on ambition or luck. It was built on doing the right thing, especially when it was hard. This inspiring story shows us how the smallest decisions, like asking for an ID badge, can ripple into life-altering outcomes. But beyond that, it reveals a deeper truth about modern life. Honor, loyalty, and courage are still relevant and desperately needed in today's fast-pacing, high-tech world. Dexter didn't just stop Elon Musk at the door. He stood firm when tempted, stayed calm under pressure, and ultimately risked his life to protect not just secrets worth billions, but his daughter's safety and future. In doing so, he reminded us that real leadership isn't about power, it's about responsibility. How many times are we faced with choices, big or small, where bending the rules feels easier? Whether it's in our jobs, relationships, or daily routines, the temptation to compromise is real. But Dexter's journey challenges us to think differently. What if holding the line is what opens the door to our greatest opportunity? In a society flooded with viral fame and fleeting attention, Dexter's story went viral not because of glamour, but because of goodness, and that's the kind of content we need more of. So, if this story moved you, challenged your thinking, or simply reminded you of what truly matters, do us a favor, tap that like button. Share this inspiring story with someone who needs encouragement today. And if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel so you never miss another powerful tale of perseverance, principle, and purpose. Because here, we don't just tell stories, we honor the people who quietly change the world. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.